You are not weak because you lack strength. You are weak because you speak weakness into existence every single day. Right now, in this moment, there are 6 phrases circulating through your mind and spilling from your lips that are systematically dismantling your masculine frame, eroding your inner fortress, and broadcasting to the world that you are a man who has surrendered his power to circumstances. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his private journal how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. Sorichen kondin exmashin an konbids. But here's what the Roman emperor didn't need to write, because it was so obvious to him. The trouble begins not with what others say, but with the poison we pour into our own minds through our words. Most men believe masculine energy comes from the gym, from money, from status. They're chasing shadows. The Stoics understood what modern men have forgotten. Your masculine frame is built or destroyed in the space between stimulus and response. And that space is governed by language. Today, I'm going to expose 6 specific phrases that are kryptonite to your masculine energy. More importantly, I'll show you the Stoic alternatives that transform reactive boys into responsive men. If you speak even one of these phrases regularly, you're hemorrhaging power you don't even know you have. The first phrase, it's not fair. Listen carefully. Every time you utter these 3 words, you announce to the universe that you are a child in a man's body. The average man sees injustice and whines. The Stoic sees the same injustice and asks, what can I control here? This is what I call the sovereignty shift, the moment you stop being a victim of reality and become an architect of response. Picture 2 men in ancient Rome. Both are merchants. A corrupt official demands a bribe from each. The first man goes home, tells his wife, it's not fair, drinks himself into stupor, and spends weeks complaining to anyone who will listen. His energy drains. His business suffers. His masculine presence evaporates. The second man, a student of Stoicism, feels the same anger rise. But instead of, it's not fair, he thinks, this is the reality. Now what? He factors the bribe into his costs. He finds legal ways to minimize interaction with that official. He builds relationships with others. He thrives despite the unfairness. Feel the difference? One man gave his power to the situation. The other used the situation to discover his power. When you say, it's not fair, you're not making an observation. You're making a declaration of defeat. You're saying, I expected the universe to follow my rules, and now I'm upset it doesn't. The universe doesn't owe you fairness. Your father didn't owe you perfect parenting. Your ex didn't owe you loyalty. The economy doesn't owe you opportunity. This isn't pessimism. This is freedom. Because once you stop expecting fairness, you start engineering victory. Replace it's not fair with this Stoic response. This is what is. What's my move? That's the difference between a boy crying about the rules and a man playing the game masterfully despite them. The second phrase, I'll try. Yoda was channeling pure Stoic wisdom when he said, do or do not. There is no try. But let me tell you why this phrase is even more insidious than you think. I'll try is the language of preemptive failure. It's you negotiating with defeat before the battle begins. The foolish man says, I'll try, because he wants credit for effort without commitment to results. The wise man says, I will or I won't, because he understands that masculine energy requires decisive commitment. Think about a ship captain in a storm. Does he say, I'll try to keep us off the rocks? No. He says, we're changing course 15 degrees starboard now. The storm doesn't care about his trying. The rocks don't care about his effort. Only his decision matters. I call this the commitment razor, cutting away all hedge words that dilute your power. Here's what happens in your brain when you say, I'll try. Your subconscious immediately begins building exit strategies. You're literally programming yourself for acceptable failure. You're telling every cell in your body, we're not really doing this. A woman asks you to meet her at 8. You say, I'll try. What did you just communicate? That you're a man whose word means nothing. That you can't make a simple decision. That she's an option, not a priority. Your boss asks if you can deliver the project by Friday. I'll try. You just told him you're unreliable. But here's the deeper poison. Every I'll try weakens your relationship with yourself. You become a man who can't trust his own words. The Stoic alternative isn't recklessness, it's clarity. Yes, I'll be there at 8. Or, no, I can't make 8. How about 9? I'll deliver it by Friday. Or, Friday's not possible, but I can guarantee Monday. See the pattern? Decisive yes, decisive no, never maybe. Seneca wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and seeks the old truths." The old truth is this: men who try, fail. Men who decide succeed or fail definitively, and both outcomes make them stronger. The third phrase, "that's just how I am." This phrase is the sarcophagus of personal growth. It's you burying yourself alive in the cemetery of fixed identity. The average man uses "that's just how I am" as armor against change. The Stoic knows that identity is not fixed but fluid, not discovered but decided. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that modern men desperately need to hear. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work," as a human being. Notice he didn't say, "I'm not a morning person." He said, "I have work to do." Every time you say, "that's just how I am," you're practicing what I call identity calcification, the slow hardening of possibility into prison. Let me paint you a picture. Two men sit at a networking event. An opportunity to speak publicly arises. The first man thinks, "I'm not good at public speaking. That's just how I am." He stays seated. He stays small. The second man thinks, "I haven't developed public speaking yet." He stands. He speaks. He stumbles. But something powerful happens. He just changed who he is by changing what he does. "That's just how I am" is comfort wrapped in cowardice. It feels safe because it excuses you from the discomfort of growth. But here's what you don't realize. The comfort of staying the same is slowly killing the man you could become. Think about water. When it stops moving, it stagnates. It breeds disease. It becomes poison. Your identity is the same. The moment you say, "that's just how I am," you stop flowing, stop growing, stop living. The Stoic replacement is revolutionary. "This is how I've been. Let's see who I become." You're not an introvert. You're a man who has practiced introversion. You're not bad with money. You're a man who hasn't learned financial discipline yet. You're not unlucky in love. You're a man still learning relationship dynamics. Feel the shift? From fixed to fluid. From prison to possibility. Bruce Lee understood this when he said, "Be like water." Water doesn't say, "I'm just ice." It becomes ice when cold, steam when heated, flowing liquid in between. It adapts without losing its essence. The fourth phrase, "I need you to," stop. Right there. The moment these words form in your mouth, you're announcing your dependency. You're declaring that your emotional state is controlled by others' actions. The foolish man says, "I need you to respect me." The wise man commands respect through presence. The weak man says, "I need you to understand." The strong man makes himself clear and releases attachment to others' comprehension. This is what I call emotional sovereignty, the complete ownership of your internal state regardless of external actions. Epictetus taught, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our interpretations of those things." Find your aid and cherished. When you say, "I need you to," you're handing someone else the keys to your peace. Picture a gladiator entering the arena. Does he turn to the crowd and say, "I need you to cheer for me"? Does he tell his opponent, "I need you to fight fair"? No. He enters with complete ownership of his performance, independent of anyone else's actions. Here's the brutal truth. Every "I need you to" is a confession of weakness. It's you admitting that you haven't built strong enough internal structures to maintain your frame, regardless of others' behavior. A man tells his woman, "I need you to stop being so emotional." He just gave her his power. Now his peace depends on her emotional state. A man tells his boss, "I need you to appreciate my work." He just became a beggar for validation. The Stoic alternative changes everything. "I would prefer if you inastan astar datan diasti," or "it would be helpful if you nas." Or sometimes, powerful silence while you handle your business regardless. See the difference? Preference versus need. Request versus requirement. You maintain your center while expressing your desires. But here's the advanced level. Often, the Stoic says nothing at all. He simply adjusts his own actions. Instead of, "I need you to respect my time," he simply stops being available to those who don't. Instead of, "I need you to appreciate me," he moves toward those who do. The fifth phrase, "Why does this always happen to me?" The victim's anthem. the loser's lament. The phrase that transforms you from protagonist to powerless extra in your own life. When you ask, why does this always happen to me? You're not seeking answers. You're seeking sympathy. You're declaring yourself special in your suffering, unique in your misfortune. The average man sees patterns of pain and assumes he's cursed. The Stoic sees the same patterns and asks, what am I doing to create this? This is the causality mirror, the practice of looking at your results as reflections of your actions, not cosmic persecution. Two men lose jobs in the same layoff. The first man goes to the bar, drowning his sorrows, asking anyone who'll listen, why does this always happen to me? I'm a good person. I work hard. It's not fair. The second man goes home, opens his journal, and writes, third job lost in 5 years. What's the pattern? Am I choosing dying industries? Am I not building enough value? Am I not networking effectively? By morning, he has a plan. One man made himself a victim of the universe. The other made himself a student of reality. Here's what's actually happening when you ask, why me? You're creating a narrative where you're the perpetual victim, where the universe has singled you out for special suffering. This narrative becomes your identity. And once it's your identity, you unconsciously create more evidence to support it. You don't see the thousands of things that go right. You only notice what goes wrong because it confirms your story. See? It always happens to me. The Stoic knows better. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, wars, betrayal from his most trusted general, the death of children. Did he ask, why me? No. He asked, what is this teaching me? How can I use this? Replace, why does this always happen to me? With what is this pattern trying to teach me? Suddenly, you're not a victim. You're a detective investigating your own life. You're not powerless. You're gathering intelligence for your next move. The sixth phrase, I'm sorry, but and the false apology, the counterfeit accountability, the phrase that destroys trust faster than outright lies. Every I'm sorry, but is actually saying, I'm not sorry at all, and here's why you're really to blame. The weak man uses but to escape accountability. The strong man owns his actions completely or doesn't apologize at all. This is the clean ownership principle. Either own it fully or don't own it at all. No middle ground. No escape clauses. Think about a samurai who accidentally cuts a fellow warrior during training. Does he say, I'm sorry, but you moved unexpectedly? No. He says, I failed to control my blade. I take full responsibility. Or he says nothing, letting his future actions demonstrate his commitment to mastery. I'm sorry, but you made me angry. Translation, your behavior controls my emotions. I'm sorry, but I was stressed. Translation, circumstances control my actions. I'm sorry, but that's not what I meant. Translation, I take no ownership of my communication. Feel how each but erases the apology? It's like writing a check and immediately canceling it. Here's the psychology. When you add but to an apology, you're trying to have it both ways. You want the social credit for apologizing without the vulnerability of actual accountability. You want to seem responsible without being responsible. Women see through this immediately. So do strong men. So do children, actually. Everyone knows that I'm sorry, but means you're not sorry at all. The Stoic alternative is radical honesty. Either I was wrong, I own it completely, or I acted according to my values and I stand by it. No mixture, no dilution, no escape hatch. Seneca wrote, no man is free who is not master of himself. Economy de. When you say, I'm sorry, but you're announcing that you're not master of yourself, that your actions are controlled by others' actions, that your behavior is at the mercy of circumstances. The architecture of masculine language. Now you understand. These 6 phrases aren't just words. They're spells of weakness you cast upon yourself daily. They're the bars of the cage you build with your own tongue. But knowing what not to say is only half the equation. The Stoic builds his masculine frame through what he does say. Instead of, it's not fair, say, this is the game. I'll play it better. Instead of, I'll try, say, I will or I won't. Instead of, that's just how I am, say, that's how I've been. Instead of, I need you to, say, I would prefer, or say nothing and adjust. Instead of, why does this always happen to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of, I'm sorry, but say, I own this, or I stand by this. Feel the difference? One set of phrases makes you smaller. The other makes you sovereign. The transformation protocol. Here's your assignment, should you choose to accept it. For the next 7 days, you will become a hunter of your own weakness. Every time one of these phrases rises to your lips, you'll catch it, examine it, and replace it. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't affirmations. This is what I call linguistic architecture, deliberately building the framework of your reality through conscious speech. The foolish man thinks words are just sounds. The wise man knows words are weapons, tools, and building blocks of identity. Marcus Aurelius understood this when he wrote, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." But thoughts become words, and words become reality. Imagine yourself 6 months from now. You've eliminated these 6 phrases completely. You speak with decisive clarity. You own your actions without excuse. You adapt without complaint. You stand sovereign in your power. People notice. Women feel it before you even speak, that solid, grounded energy of a man who owns his words. Men respect it, that quiet strength of someone who doesn't leak power through verbal weakness. But most importantly, you feel it. That deep, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing your word is your bond and your language is your power. The choice before you. 2 paths diverge from this moment. The first path, you return to your patterns. You continue speaking weakness into existence. You remain the man who says, it's not fair, while life passes him by, who says, I'll try, while others do, who says, that's just how I am, while others evolve beyond recognition. The second path, you wage war on weak language. You become surgical with your speech. You transform from a man who explains his failures to a man who engineers his victories. The Stoics knew something modern men have forgotten. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are not your circumstances. You are your choices. And your most powerful choice is the words you speak into existence. Every phrase you utter is a vote for the man you're becoming. Every word is a brick in the fortress of your frame. Every sentence is a declaration of who you are and who you refuse to be. The average man will watch this and return to his patterns tomorrow. The exceptional man has already begun changing his speech. Which one are you? Remember, the universe doesn't care about your explanations. Reality doesn't negotiate with your excuses. Life responds only to decisive action backed by powerful language. You now possess knowledge that most men will never have. The understanding that masculine energy isn't built in the gym or the boardroom, but in the space between thought and speech. The question isn't whether you're capable of change. The question is whether you're willing to silence the voice of weakness and speak the language of strength. The ancient Stoics built an empire on these principles. Modern men build lives of quiet desperation by ignoring them. Your masculine energy isn't destroyed by external forces. It's poisoned from within, one weak phrase at a time. But now you know. Now you're armed. Now you choose. Stop speaking weakness. Start speaking power. The man you're meant to be is waiting on the other side of your words. Choose wisely. Speak deliberately. Transform completely. This is the way of the Stoic. This is the path of the sovereign man. This is your awakening.